Going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Saeed TV. We are live the morning after the night before. As you all know, the news is out there, people. Sheikh Jassim has withdrawn his offer, and it looks like Jim Ratcliffe is closing in on 25% stake of Manchester United. Here to discuss it with me all, we got Adam Matic, United Vibe. Big up to you, my bro. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, mate, I'm terrible. Glad to be back with you, mate, and doing the thing that we love. But obviously, in the circumstances, it's not a good place to be being a United fan right now. There's just, you can see it in the comment section already. I mean, I got it last night after I did a video, and just like the vibe of the United fan base right now is one of like, I just cannot see any light at the end of any tunnel right now. It's a horrible place to be. But what do we do, mate? What do? We talk about it. We try and find hope. We try and figure out what's going on. But yeah, I'm hoping that you, maybe Ben, can shed some light on what is happening, give me a little bit of encouragement. But honestly, I felt so low this morning waking up after yesterday. It was horrible.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like I said, Ben will be here in the next 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes or so. You know, Ben's a busy man. You know what I mean? The amount of stuff that he's got to put out there. So the fact that we've got him on for around half an hour is good enough for me, man. So yeah, please like the video. Please subscribe to Adam's channel. Link is in the description, but we'll get into it straight away. Yesterday, like I said, Sheikh Jassim literally withdrew his offer from Manchester United, but it means there's a front runner, and that is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. A clause handing Sir Jim Ratcliffe control of sporting matters at MUFC explains why he's willing to pay an estimated 1.35 billion for just 25% stake. It carries on here to say Sir Jim Ratcliffe will take control of football operations at Man United in his proposed 25% co-ownership deal. The Glazers will remain at the club but take back seats. I mean, the footballing matters is okay, but it does mean the Glazers do stay, Adam, possibly for another couple of years. The whole thing we wanted, Adam, was a full sale only. You know, if had Jim Ratcliffe gone that route, I don't think we'd have this kind of animosity to Jim Ratcliffe. But because he's now willing to go into bed with the Glazers to get in his role, that's where it's angered a lot of fans. You know, forget the Jim Ratcliffe, sorry, the Sheikh Jassim part for one bit, but just let's just focus on what he's done to get to this role. He's almost got his foot in the door in a sneaky, snaky way. This is a guy that's meant to be Man United fan. That's why it doesn't sit well with me, Adam, man, and why I'm not really pissed off about that.
No, mate. Honestly, you're echoing what a lot of United fans are saying at the moment in terms of the snake side of things. I mean, he doesn't care really. I mean, business over football. That's what matters. When you're investing that much money, so how big a football fan is there? Do you know what, mate? It's like I was brought up in the same town as him, Failsworth, the Newton Heath area. For me, yeah, business over football. It's always going to be that way with these guys. When they're putting that much money in, then you got to question that football fan side of things. Honestly, I just brush that aside. The way he's done it as a masterstroke of a businessman. And I said it last night on my stream, mate. I said the Glazers, Jim Ratcliffe, they're Champions League standard of the business world. That's what they are. They have pulled off one hell of a deal. The Glazers are absolutely, they're like top of the league, multi-time winning Champions League. If we made a league for businessmen in terms of football sense, what they've done, how much they've spent, they have pulled off a masterstroke. You know, how they've managed to own Manchester United. So Jim Ratcliffe just wants a piece of the pie. He's got used to it now with his operations at his two other clubs. And he wants bigger things. We knew he was interested in Chelsea. So if you're a big United fan, why would you go for Chelsea in the first place? It's about the money, mate. That's all it is. And the operations side of things, Saeed, football operations, what does that mean to us? Yeah, still, we are going to see someone else or maybe a different sort of structure, something like that. That's the best thing we can look forward to. But you said it in the opening statement, mate. The Glazers are still there. It doesn't matter.
Still there.
If Radcliffe helps us
Mm.
start to run better and make more money, do you think that's going to get the Glazers to leave? They're going to be putting the feet on they're getting crushed. The cigars are coming out because now they don't have to worry about the operation, and they're going to make more money because there's probably a better structure coming in. So Jim's just come in here thinking, I can run this better. I've run a football club before, and I can still make money off this. And if there is an opportunity in the future, I don't think there is, because I don't think the Glazers are looking to go anywhere. If they were going to go, mate, they would have gone now. What makes you think they're going to go in a couple of years' time? I mean, where is that stake? How much of the 30% shareholders' stake is this 25%? How much of the actual stake of the Glazers, that's 69%, is he taking? Because it's not all that 25%. So there's a long way to go before the Glazers relinquish any control of this football club. And honestly,
Yeah.
I just feel like the Glazers have seen the opportunity to make some money and then prolong their stay, making even more money by bringing another billionaire powerhouse into the fray. And for United fans, it just means a long, long time. Maybe our lifetime say we'll never see the Glazers leave.
Bro, it's looking like that. And this is the problem as well. You know, big up to Stephanie. More debt, little or no investment. Again, it's a debt issue. This Jim Ratcliffe has given no indication as to how he's going to get rid of the debt. You know what I mean? This withstanding debt that's just been literally summoned on Man United. He's given no indication. He said, you know, he may leverage it on more kind of maybe loans and whatnot and get it through that way. But it doesn't mean that the debt goes away, does it? Where Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I said, sorry, Sheikh Jassim has come out and outlined, you know what, the debt's going. It's wiped out, it's clean, you have investment, everything. There's been so much grey areas around Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's almost as if he hasn't come in with a plan. He's just almost come out with, say, you know what, I may have a little bit of money and I may come in and may, you know, and you know what he's done? He's pulled everyone through the fact that he's a local lad. That's all it is. He's pulled everyone in because he gets it. You know what I mean? If he gets it. But reality is, there's so many owners that get, football clubs. But at the end of the day, is it right for their club? No, it's not. And this is a simple question for Jim Ratcliffe. How much do you really know? How much do you really can you benefit us? And the questions for me are not there. He can dilly-dally around it, but I just don't see it, man. And in
No,
6 years' time, is there any guarantees? We're literally, imagine now, we've been pondering and stressing over a year of whether they're going or not. And now, over the next 6 years, what's the guarantee of that happening? There's no guarantees. Literally none. And that's why I wanted Sheikh Jassim full control, 100% of the football club, and the Glazers go. That's what it was for me. And that's what it'll always be for me.
yeah,
And guarantees of infrastructure.
one man in charge, one say, no dawdling over transfers or big financial decisions within the club. All we're bringing to the table here is more negotiations to make one decision into Jim Radcliffe.
Yep.
It's like, well, hang on a minute. No, you can't make this decision now, Avram, Joel, whoever, whatever part of the Glazers. You can't make this decision because we all need to say first. All we're doing is adding another big player who's going to come to the table and go, I don't think we should be spending that much money on that transfer. I don't think we should be investing into the training ground, anything like that. I think it should be somewhere else. It drags on, and then someone else comes in, sweeps that player away. I mean, it's like I said last night, but you've got Charlie Savage coming out saying that Man United's training ground is on a par with Reading's. Yeah. I mean, it's just the height of embarrassment. It really is. This football club is just dragging its fan base through the mud right now, and they don't give a toss. They don't give a toss. How many times have you been told you should just not go? You should just not go to Old Trafford. Stop putting money in the pockets. It doesn't matter. They've got fans to replace us already. We're being banned if we don't pay our cup scheme games on time from a Premier League game. They've got fans, match-going fans, loyal fans who've been going for years, strangled. And if we don't want to agree with the way that things are run, then we've got a replacement ready-made for you. See you later. We don't care. Everything goes out the window. You lose all of your loyalty bonus, your loyalty pot, and everything like that goes straight out if you miss one game. You cannot afford to do it because it's money going into the Glazers' pockets. It's run like a business. It's run like a cash cow. We've known this, but what Sir Jim brings to it, there's no guarantee at all that it's going to be successful. The debt is going to be there. And like you said, then the bigger thing is, it's like, how much debt is Sir Jim going into to buy this stake? So then you go, right, okay, if you are going to take it on in the future, and this club in the Glazers' eyes is going to become more and more valuable, which is why they're staying, then how much more debt are you going to have to go into to then buy the Glazers out in the future? And then we're stuck with that debt and we're never rid of it. Honestly, I don't know. Ben may be able to shed some light onto it even more, but the way I look at it, I go, he hasn't got the cash to buy it. Sheikh Jassim did. It would have been a clean sweep, everything moving in the right direction. Now Sheikh Jassim, who is probably going to be pissed off because they don't like losing. We know this, the Qataris. He's going to go to another club and he's going to do another City on us, Newcastle, another big player to the table while we're falling behind trying to figure out how to run a football club because we have just let the biggest club in world football deteriorate. For me, honestly,
you know what? I'd let him do that. You know what? Let him
madness.
do that because they've taken the mick out of him. They've absolutely took the mick out of him. And you know what? I'm going to put it up here as to what we've missed out, people. And please do smash the like button on the video if you can, people. This is what this is what it would have been. Sheikh Jassim believes he would have been the dream owner of Man United, fully cash bid, clearing all the debt with zero new debt for 100% of the football club. He's the only bidder who has offered to buy 100% of Man United. Investment package was worth more than 8 billion. We're not talking about here just a
Real money.
simple bid. This is real money, people, man. This is money that he's got up front, everything done. This is why I keep saying it's like, okay, I can give my season ticket away. Okay, cool. But people need to realize the real issue here is that it's greed that has stopped this ownership from happening. It's greed, guys. This is greed. And ultimately, whether they can stay for longer and create more money from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I just look at it and I think, you know what? Move away. Move away, man. You know what? Go buy a Tottenham. Go buy a West Ham. Give them a future. Like, generally, go and give them a future. Because at the end of the day, right now, he looked at this thinking, hold on a minute, this is a world record bid. World record bid. And these guys want more.
For any sports franchise across all sport, mate, no one is worth more than what Sheikh Jassim has bid for Manchester United, and that's not enough for the Glazers. They think it's worth more. Anything, as we know, mate, is only worth what someone's willing to pay. Manchester United, to add value, they have to be at the top. We're not going to be at the top with the Glazers here. So how the Glazers look at it and go, well, we think we should hang around a bit longer because we can get more money out of this. Well, making more money now, which they will. But ultimately, the lack of investment into the team doesn't work out because you've got to look at the fact that, yeah, we may get more money. The new Champions League format, the money's ridiculous involved in that. The deals, the broadcasting deals will probably go up again. And eventually, some big powerhouse, maybe a Facebook, maybe an Amazon, someone like that will start streaming and paying more broadcasting rights. And they're just holding out for that because they know that the Premier League is the pinnacle of all sports franchise in their eyes. That's what they want. They think these things are going to happen. They're projecting these things are going to happen, but you just don't know. But Manchester United still have to be performing on the pitch. And whether they look at it as a Jim coming in, we're not going to have the mistakes of a Sancho or Ronaldo, the stupid buying. Maybe the structure of Sir Jim Ratcliffe will bring United back to the top. We just sit back with our feet up and let the money roll in. That may be their thinking. It's the only way I can see them thinking, to be honest. Allow another big power player like Sir Jim coming in, then you've got to look at it and go, well, yeah, it can only benefit us in a way. How's it going to benefit us? Maybe their model of running a football club is going to take United up, and then by the time someone really wants to buy us out, it's going to be worth 7 or 8 billion. And that's the only way I can see it. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how they're thinking our way, but they know more than us. They're smarter than us in business sense. We're all looking and speaking to experts, trying to figure out it ourselves. But as a United fan, whichever way you look at it, it is the Glazers still in charge. The debt hasn't gone anywhere. It has got worse. And we are crap on the pitch. We're a mid-table team. So how can we try and look at this in any positive light whatsoever? It's impossible, mate.
Yeah. You know what? I just think it's crazy, man. And like I said to you, I'm just going to bring up a tweet from Laurie Whitwell explaining it even more. So we got it here. How Sir Jim Ratcliffe maneuvered his way to brink of a 25% stake in Man United, navigating complex stock structure and Glazers siblings. Sheikh Jassim bid was for full control with proposed 1.7 billion for infrastructure, but lower price per share, full account. There you go, man. You know what, Squell? It's crazy. Like you know what is it? It's almost as if the blueprint was there for a new kind of dawn of Man United. That's why I think the sadness comes in with everyone. A lot of people will say, "Oh, shame on you. You want the oil money." It's not about just having oil money. It's about clearing out the debt, building new infrastructure, and actually competing at the highest level. Man United wanted to compete at the highest level. You want the Qataris to come. It's as simple as that. You know,
Yeah, I
but if
mean, you
you
look
want
at
to
it.
be managed, go on.
Yeah, sorry, it's like you said then, mate. No, it's not about the oil money. All United want is to be self-sufficient. If Sheikh Jazim came in and he cleared the debt, Manchester, he wouldn't have to spend any of his money. If he came in and bought United, cleared the debt, Manchester United would be more than self-sufficient. The revenues and everything that we bring in, and you look at the debt, you look at everything that's hampering United moving forward, it's because of that debt. And ultimately, United can run on its own. We've seen that because now we're hampering that debt. We're sort of managing that debt within our own revenue. So if Sheikh Jazim did spend money on United, I don't think he'd even have to invest as much as what he was proposing, because United will make him money as well. It's just, honestly, I think we just want to be our own football club again and run the way we did before. It's that sort of utopia, that world that everyone wants and everyone craves, but it just seems a million miles away right now.
Absolutely. Ben, welcome to you, Ben. I know you're a busy man. To get you out of this
Hey, Ben.
difficult kind of schedule, big up to you. Ben, we need some positivity if you can. I know it's hard at the minute because we're all waiting for the Sheikh Jassim dream of a new dawn, but it is looking like Jim Ratcliffe is going to be the new, well, I say part owner because he's obviously not took full control of the football club. But Ben, can you elaborate for everyone in here what has happened and what are the latest developments for us, please?
Yeah, of course. Well, as I reported, like many others last night, Sheikh Jassim has formally withdrawn from the bid. It happened a couple of days ago. And prior to withdrawing, there were new and advanced talks resulting in a final ×6 offer, which again was turned down. And the total investment package is around $8 billion. I use dollars because that is the currency of the bidding process. 1.7 billion was pledged investment, not really relevant to the process, but hugely important to Manchester United. And Jim Ratcliffe's offer is not only higher, which is to be expected for somebody that doesn't want to buy 100% of the football club, but also it plays on the Glazers' desire to stay for a little bit longer. And from Ratcliffe's point of view, it's not really a criticism of Sheikh Jassim. He was able to out-negotiate the Qatari because from 9-2 Foundation's perspective, they only had one structure. So you can't really change an all or nothing bid. You just have to go up in valuation. And Qatar felt like the valuation on the Glazers side was outlandish. So finally, they've walked away. Now, the timing of walking away strongly implies that they realized that Ratcliffe was very close. And sources had indicated last week that Ratcliffe had made significant progress. So we're looking at the moment at, as you say, a minority investment of around 25% of the football club with an eventual path to control. And it's not all bad news because although it is easy to think of Sheikh Jassim as the sort of cash-heavy, debt-free option for the benefit of the football club and the community, that's just there on paper. And it's very appealing. And anybody can put that on paper and come up with a very appealing Manchester United bid. But with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if he's to proceed, it of course becomes practical. So now we have to look at those positives and understand, I think, two key points. One is, what is the path to control? Because that could well still see the Glazers leave. That's the positive. The second positive is, what does sporting control entail if the Glazers still remain at the club? And is that a binding agreement? Is that a gentleman's agreement? Is that logistical? Is that practical? Is that voting rights? What happens to the relationship between Class A and Class B shares and so on? These are all questions that have not only been asked internally within negotiations, but fans will be craving. And obviously, if Ratcliffe comes in, and in an ideal world, I'm not saying that this is exactly what's going to happen, but to give the fans a more positive spin, if Ratcliffe comes in and says, I'm starting with 25, but I am going to take all 69, I'm going to endeavour to take the 69 within 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be in full control of all sporting matters, me and the Glazers are going to spend on Old Trafford, I'm going to appoint a sporting director, and eventually I will own all of this football club, and it was the only way of doing it, then that sounds a lot more reassuring than I am a minority investor and it's business as usual at Manchester United Football Club. So we have to understand the structure, but it looks like in the next few days, the Ratcliffe pitch will be put to the board and then voted on. And if it is approved, then Sir Jim Ratcliffe becomes very close to getting his foot in the door at Manchester United with an initial 25% stake.
Obviously, there's a lot of questions about fans and whatnot. Is this about greed from the Glazers owners' part? Because obviously, Sheikh Jassim has put a record bid here. Is it a situation where they wanted a higher bid? What has gone wrong in terms of Sheikh Jassim's part? Could he have done more? Because obviously there's questions out there from people, as to say why he's withdrawn. Would it have been a situation of another bid here? In that part, what has gone wrong for him?
Well, I think Sheikh Jassim has withdrawn because, as I've said many times, in a takeover, you often hear from the loser first. And culturally, I think the optics of withdrawing and walking away due to a kind of fatigue with the process suit 9-2 Foundation better than just staying silent and in the process and then finding out that somebody else wins. So this is about owning the narrative, but you don't own the narrative and pull out unless you feel like somebody else has moved ahead of you in the process. So that's why I sense it's come out now, because 9-2 Foundation are also aware that Ratcliffe has made significant progress. What went wrong? I think you can say a whole different host of things. Predominantly, they haven't paid what it takes to own 100% of Manchester United Football Club. Now, many listening will say that's because the Glazers are greedy, as you imply in your question, and that it is almost counterintuitive and against business logic to pay the kind of money that the Glazers want. And Ratcliffe can do it because he's only starting with 25%. And this is very normal in a takeover as well, to overpay when you only want a small stake. I'm told that with Dynasty and Liverpool, again, it's a percentage at under 5, and they have, in inverted commas, overpaid if you calculate the market value of the club and then look at the club valuation. So if you're only taking 25%, you'll value the club a lot higher, but you know that you're only paying 25% of that club valuation. So it's very normal in any takeover for those wanting smaller stakes to offer a higher club valuation than those wanting 100% of the club. So from Jassim's point of view, he was up against a different structure. He was up against an expert negotiator, and he was up against somebody that could offer the Glazers more money and a chance to stay and see the club grow. And the Glazers' belief remains that if they stay at the club with the right investment and get success on and off the field, then they will be in a position where by 2026 or 2030, the overall valuation of the club will grow. And I think the other thing in all of this is we shouldn't just look at two club valuations with Ratcliffe being higher. We should also understand that if Ratcliffe buys eventually the full 69 or any kind of majority stake, it might be 50%, for example, then when you get to the point when he is eligible to either buy off the Glazers or alternatively, the Glazers are eligible to sell to Ratcliffe. And those are two different points, by the way. The way these clauses work are there is price X for when Ratcliffe might be able to activate additional purchase, and there's price Y for when the Glazers might be able to sell to Ratcliffe. And that's very normal. And I won't go into too much more detail because we need to understand the structure. It's fluid. It's been obviously negotiated in different ways, and Ratcliffe has pivoted. But essentially, and this is very, very broad, when you come up with what a price might be in the future, it will be determined based upon a variety of factors, and it can be either fixed or variable. But if it's variable, then you can have a formula, and the formula is used to determine at the time of potential purchase what the price may be. So in other words, the Glazers may not see the club valuation now for 100% of the club as relevant. They may say, we'll give you 25% now, and then when you want the rest, the new formula will come into play. That's one option anyway. And who knows? The rest of the shares might be based on a club valuation of 10 billion US dollars. So suddenly you get a situation where the Glazers are feeling like Ratcliffe actually has a club valuation that is so much higher than Jassim that Jassim wouldn't have only had to go to 7 or 7.5 billion to stand a chance. He might have had to go to 8, 9 or 10 billion to stand a chance, because Ratcliffe is giving that potential possibility to the Glazers if there comes a point when he buys the rest of their shares further down the line. And this is why Ratcliffe is an expert negotiator. This is why Ratcliffe's been able to say you can have your cake and eat it, because for Ratcliffe, he just wants a foot in the door. He wants the glory. He wants some control. He wants to be the face and the voice of the club. And I suppose I can only compare it a little bit anyway to Amanda Staveley at Newcastle. PIF own Newcastle. They take a bit of a back seat, but obviously they are the funders of the club. But Amanda Staveley is the face of the club. She's the voice of the club. She's in the dressing room. She's doing all of the interviews. She's taking all of the glory, but she actually only owns 10% of the club. And I think that Ratcliffe would quite like to be in that position where he has say, he has the potential to grow at the football club, but he's also very much part of a passion project, a vanity project. And who knows, that might also benefit Manchester United, because if he's that invested and keen on the attention and the glory and the development on the sporting side to begin with, then it can actually benefit Manchester United Football Club. But I think that Jassim basically failed because the process maybe wasn't designed for him to succeed. The valuation wasn't there. And we also have to understand whether the group are who they've said they are throughout the process. Who was behind it? Who was funding it? Who would have come in? What was the involvement of the government? What was the involvement of other senior Qatari figures? They fell out essentially with those running the process because of all of those points that I mentioned. And there'll always be two sides. So there'll be plenty defending Sheikh Jassim and calling him a dream owner. But I do think that we have to be very clear here that in order to win a takeover of this magnitude, you don't just need money. It's the most important factor, but it's not the only factor. You need a relationship. And from day one, Ratcliffe was in with Rain Group and had that engagement and relationship. And Jassim didn't, because he was using intermediaries, and it was a point of frustration. The public statement that Jassim made when he entered the race appeared to slag off the Glazers, and it won a lot of plaudits, but it didn't go down well with those running the process. So I think from day one, those who actually are behind the sale of Manchester United, including, of course, the Glazers, were just a bit doubtful that Jassim was who he said he was. And that even includes now, because there's plenty I speak to in the process that say, if he's who he says he is, if he's got the money who he says he is, if there's any backing from these senior figures, we would have expected them just to pay what it takes as well. So there's a bit of gamesmanship. There's plenty of counter narratives. But ultimately, the fact that Jassim chose to withdraw, I think, tells you that he got to a point where he felt that this just wasn't a process that he could win.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you make of that? Obviously, what Ben said there. I mean, it's difficult for me to kind of process it, because I always think in the end of it, you're still getting questions in the bit where when he does take full control, how much of it can he afford? You just don't know, do you? I mean, does that give you more questions more than answers in that regards? You know, later on,
Yeah,
the
I
fact that
mean,
he's kind of gone through.
we look at it, don't we, say, and it's like Ben is the expert on this side of things, and we're all educating ourselves by speaking to people who know more than what we do. We're basically football fans, and we just want the best for our football club. But how I look at it is, I'm like, so Jim Ratcliffe doesn't even have to come out and say anything. In the business world, to me, this just looks like a normal business transaction, and nothing even has to be announced on the football side of things. We don't necessarily need to hear from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's got that small stake in the football club. The Glazers don't need to come out and say anything football related wise. We don't know where that 25% is going. How much of that 25% is from other shareholders' stake in the football club, not just the Glazers? I think that's probably my question. How much of the 69% is that 25%? Is it split between both the shareholders and the Glazer shares? And is any of that money available? It's like questions, and like what Ben said, then we have to wait to obviously find out more in the structure of everything. But again, like you said, Said, it just, every United fan right now is like trying to think, it's like, we've got so many questions to ask, but nobody really knows yet until more information comes out. And that's why it's scary for us, because how is Sir Jim Ratcliffe raising the money? Is he raising more debt? Is he then going to be having to pay more if he wants to take over more of a stake in Manchester United later down the line? Does it rely on United actually being successful in this period of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers together? Because we're a mile off right now, and there are teams that are better run than us that aren't going to stay still. And right now, it just looks like we're starting again from mid-table in a really bad position, where other clubs that are run well are already miles ahead. So the worry is, how far we're behind. Is Sir Jim coming in to run football side of things, or whatever that means, going to help us close that gap? And then you're worrying about, when will the Glazers actually ever want to sell the club? If Sir Jim's model works, will he ever want to move away if they're making that much money? There's so many questions, and you can't answer all of them in one go. But it's like what Ben was saying was basically, nobody knows until someone comes out and says, and we understand the structure of everything that's going on within this deal. But I mean, they don't really have to say anything as far as I understand it. They can just carry on. Is that right?
Well, I think they'll have to make some public statement because it's a publicly listed company. They'll have a board meeting.
And the finance side, yeah.
Regardless, also, the board meeting will effectively open the Pandora's box, if you like, because you can't have any vote or approval and it not get out there. So I fully expect the Ratcliffe side to make a statement of sorts. The normal thing to do is for the club to make a joint statement. That's what happened with Chelsea, and to explain that they set out a process and that they found a investor, and then to outline what that investment will entail. And if they do it like Leeds, for example, with 49ers Enterprises, and it's a staggered route to a majority stake or control, then they may list some of the timeframes. But it depends in many ways whether Ratcliffe and or the Glazers want a optional path to control or a path to control that is an obligation. And with Ratcliffe, he's always said, regardless of the club valuation, which is a bit of a red herring in some ways, because people will add up 100% club valuation, but that's not what Ratcliffe's paying. And what Ratcliffe's always said is that he only wants to pay the bare minimum to get a foot in at the football club.
Yeah.
Now, he had said that bare minimum was for a majority in control. So now we need to understand whether, if he starts with 25%, whether he still is prepared to pay the bare minimum to get to that control, and when, or whether it will only be optional depending on how things go. And the Glazers can ultimately have their cake and eat it if it's optional, because they can say, we're taking Ratcliffe's money, we've given him the option to buy. If he declines that option, we can stay at the club. If he declines that option, we can put the club back on the market in 3 to 5 years. They can do what they want. If it's an obligation at a certain point. And that was the thing with 49ers Enterprises and Leeds. Although they came in this summer, which was widely expected, had they not come in this summer, by 2024, they would have an obligation to take over the football club. And I think that will be reassuring to Manchester United fans if they know that there is an end game, if they know at some point the Glazers will exit, because then you understand that Ratcliffe will learn the club, will stagger his influence over the club, and will always be invested, because one day he has to be the majority owner or have full control of the club. Whereas if it's 25% with all kinds of different legal options and permutations and possibilities, then I think fans will be a little bit more uneasy, because they won't necessarily feel reassured that Ratcliffe can do that much in the short term. And it's all very well saying, as sources have indicated, that Ratcliffe's 25% has sporting control. But another big question that everyone is asking, myself included, is what's the difference between sporting control and voting control? Because if he's got sporting control but not voting control, because he's still only a minority investor, then what does sporting control mean? How is that binding? How does that go against a potential vote? What happens if Ratcliffe with sporting control wants to do one thing, but the majority owner of the football club wants to do another thing? What is legally binding within any agreement that gives Ratcliffe that extra control that the Glazers effectively cannot veto or override? And there will be something, by the way, because this is why Ratcliffe is overpaying. He's not just slapping down a large amount of money with a huge club valuation because he desperately wants in at all costs. He's paying that extra because he's getting something on the sporting side in return. But it's very difficult to understand if someone's got all the votes, but Ratcliffe has all the sporting power. If they do run into a disagreement, what's going to change in the voting structure of the club to ensure that Ratcliffe does stay in control of sporting matters? So that's a question, a very important question that still needs answering.
Mm-hmm.
See about the debt situation. Obviously, Sheikh Jassim wanted to wipe out the debt, you know what I mean, and whatnot. We've never really heard anything from Jim Ratcliffe's side of the things, and what's his plan to kind of alleviate the debt? Like, is there a plan? Can he do much with only 25% stake? You know, obviously he wants control of the sporting matters, but we've not heard of anything about the debt. We did hear this morning about the stadium plans and whatnot, etc., etc. But in terms of the debt, what happens with that one with Jim Ratcliffe? What's his plans?
Well, the Ratcliffe Group have said one very clear thing, and it's the only thing that they've really said on the matter. And it's been a pretty repeated claim throughout the process, regardless of the structure, which is they will not saddle any new debt on Manchester United. Now, there's two different things here. There's the old debt, which is a huge worry to the football club, and there's new debt, which is an even bigger worry. And Ratcliffe had said when he was talking about 69% or 50% of the club that required a higher outlay, that any lending would be done via Ineos and not Manchester United. But there's no indication, as sad as it will be to hear for Manchester United fans at this point, that the debt is going to be cleared overnight as far as the existing debt at Manchester United Football Club. If anything, the debt will maintain, and any spending, instead of wiping the debt, will go on pledged investment. And I think that pledged investment can come in two ways. Either Ratcliffe will invest into the football club as well as buying 25%, or more likely, the Glazers will have to spend money on the club's infrastructure, knowing that that will increase the value of the club. So when they finally leave, they'll effectively get it back. And Ratcliffe's 25% investment helps them do that. And it's absolutely no coincidence that the Jassim bid increased pledged investment, which was not relevant to the process. Again, hugely important to the football club, not relevant to the actual process. But the Ratcliffe side, when they made this final offer, increased their pledged investment. And pledged investment, when you do it via this process, is not fixed. It doesn't mean it's the exact amount that they would have spent, but it's like a bare minimum. It's a binding commitment to a bare minimum. And it went from 1 billion US to 1.7 billion. And some will say that's for show, to inflate a total package to more than Ratcliffe's club valuation. And again, show when leaving that they are by far the best bid on paper for Manchester United Football Club. But others will point to the pledged investment as being equal to Ratcliffe's stake, give or take. And I think that's very intentional from the Jassim side to effectively say, we would have bought 100% of the club. You wouldn't. We would have cleared the debt. You wouldn't. We would have changed the entire infrastructure. You wouldn't. And by the way, our pledged investment factors in the need for modernisation and investment at every level of the football club. And coincidentally, is exactly the same amount as we think Ratcliffe is paying for his 25%. So unless the Glazers take exactly 25% and instead of pocketing it in any way, invest it all back into the club and all on pledged investment, then the Jassim side will argue that their bid is categorically and obviously better for Manchester United Football Club. So is that optics, or did they actually just want to spend exactly 1.7 billion in pledged investment and raise it by 0.7 billion right before they exited the process? That's for others to debate and decide. But there is now an obvious comparison between one group that would have bought the club, cleared the debt, and had $1.7 billion in pledged investment versus another that's just buying 25% to begin with for, coincidentally, about 1.7 billion as well.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, Adam, isn't it, to kind of compute everything and understand why You know what I mean? The Glazers didn't take it, but ultimately, you know what I mean? They get better value later on from Jim Ratcliffe. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? And us as fans, we can moan, but business is business. And obviously for the fans, we miss out on a new start, a new dawn, a new maybe life after the Glazers, a new kind of future, especially for the younger generation. You know, so as much as we can be sad, you know what I mean? It is business reasons, and they've always have been like that, Adam, hasn't he? And
Yeah, that is it. Like we said, like the Glazers are top dogs in terms of like football owners in the business world. They're probably looked at and by everyone in that industry and gone, wow, 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 wow. They have pulled off one hell of a deal there in what they've put into this club and how much they're making out of it. It always has been a business. Since United were floated, we kind of knew that this day could come. We all dreaded the day when the Glazers did take over. It fractured the fan base. It split the fan base in so many ways. And there's still match-going fans that I know now will just go nowhere near the place. Some guy said to me, a 63-year-old United fan said, "That's it. I know the Glazers are going to be in power. I had a little bit of hope. This is my last season as a season ticket holder." And everything was coming out. This is just how brutal the Glazers are. I seen the Tampa Bay fans throwing season tickets away. It didn't deter the Glazers. They do not care what happens off the pitch with the fans. They don't care about process. They don't care who it upsets. And like I said, if I was to give my season ticket up, the club would have someone waiting to take it. We'd probably spend more money within Old Trafford and give more money to the Glazers. They know what they're doing. And unfortunately for us, football matters, and what the fans think really doesn't come into the equation. It is all power-led and money-led, and I don't think it will ever change. It won't change because they have got the power. And while they've got the power, they will decide where the money goes, where it's invested, how much they take out, and who else comes in, as in Sir Jim Ratcliffe right now. We can all say and moan and do what we want to do, but ultimately we don't have any power in this, and we pray that eventually something will come. But the most interesting thing about what Ben said there, I feel, and what United fans will be waiting for next is that statement, the Ineos side of things, a bit of clarity on exactly what is involved in the sporting side of things. And that the biggest thing that Ben said there was, what is more powerful in terms of like the voting rights, the sporting side of things? It's two big parties coming together. Will that clash at any point? Is it a recipe for disaster? This we don't know. I don't know if they know each other clearly, but have they worked together on such a big project like this? No. And like I said, I think Sir Jim knows and understands the fan base a little bit more. We'll say that is the only positive side of this. He does understand, I would say, more about football and things like that than the Glazers do. But ultimately, how much power is he going to have? I think we need to know that. I think that's the big thing to come out of this now.
Yeah, and I think that I would just add one brief thing, which is if you go back to Ratcliffe's first statement and read the wording, it was clearly written at a point where he felt like he wouldn't coexist with the Glazers. And both groups briefing, when they said something on record, when they entered this process in February, got feedback from Rain Group and the Glazers that they shouldn't be making public statements, especially statements that appeared to imply the club needed restoring to glory. The club was broken. The club needed new ownership. So Ratcliffe is in a slightly difficult position here, because when he set out his stall, he effectively said, I want to make Manchester United the number one club in the world again, which is not a particularly positive thing to say if you're a Glazer. The last thing you want is a group basically implying that this needs changing, that needs changing. So it's worth people rereading that Ratcliffe statement, because his philosophy should be the same, but he's going to have to find a way now of coexisting with the Glazers to begin with. But that original statement, let's not forget, was for majority ownership. It said that the Ineos group would be long-term custodians of Manchester United and would be acting on behalf of the fans and the community. So you would expect transparency, you would expect engagement with supporters, particularly major supporter groups. And on top of that, it said that the aim is to make Manchester United the number one club in the world again. And I think little words like again didn't really go down well with the Glazers, because it felt like the whole purpose of the process in February was to find people to mop up their mess. And now Ratcliffe is walking into a mess and the Glazers are still there. And by mess, I don't mean anything derogatory against the football club. I think that everyone can accept that structurally, Manchester United.
You can say that. You can say that. Don't worry, Ben. Don't worry,
Well, I
Ben.
don't think it's.
We won't hold it against you.
I think it's kind of one of those things where you could buy, if it was a house, a property that was a mess inside but looked very attractive from the outside. And I think that that is effectively what Manchester United has been. Even Ronaldo said that on the football side when he returned to the club. He thought it was highly attractive, but then when he walked in, he was like, wow, look how far we've fallen in terms of facilities, in terms of culture. And this is the beauty of Manchester United, that you've got this very attractive looking house, prime location with a lot to like and a lot of value that can grow on the football side and the brand side. And that's ultimately why, even with the current uncertainty, the Snapdragon deal has been done, the Adidas deal has been done. But then when you walk inside, you're like, it's not as modern as I thought. It's not as, in inverted commas, metaphorically clean as I thought. So there's housekeeping needed, because Manchester United needs modernisation. It needs a structure. On the football side, I think the brand side is fine, but on the football side, it needs a clear structure. It needs a clear plan. And then it simply needs to catch up, because everybody can accept that Tottenham has got a more modern stadium, that Manchester City and increasingly Chelsea have got more forward-thinking multi-club models, that countless clubs around the world have got better sporting structures, that lots of clubs at the moment have got better youth, that plenty of clubs at the moment have got much stronger women's teams, even though Manchester United's women's team has made great strides. You get a player like Mary Earps that wanted to leave for Arsenal. That shouldn't be Manchester United. There should never be a player at Manchester United on the men or the women's side that wants to move to another Premier League club instead of staying at Manchester United if they're at the top of their game. The whole philosophy of Manchester United is that any top elite footballer, if they're at Manchester United, should be loving their life, should be winning things. And part of getting there is having consistency of manager, of coaches, of culture. And that comes down to your appointments in the senior leadership team. And then your brand is always going to be strong. So if you have a modern club with top facilities, a consistent football model, a brand that will always grow from strength to strength, then Manchester United will be unstoppable for its men and women's team. But unfortunately, at the moment, we're in a situation where the Glazers have let large parts of the club rot, and they've lined their own pockets whilst at the same time saddling the club with debt. And because of financial fair play, because of culture, because of posts to Alex Ferguson, transition, you can call it what you want. The club on the infrastructure side is old-fashioned. The club on the football side has been inconsistent, and yet the brand is still strong. So the exterior of the house is incredibly attractive, but someone's got to come in and clean up the mess. And if the Glazers are going to stay, they need to play a part of that, because if they don't, then nothing is going to change.
Yeah, Ben, I'm gonna leave you because I know you're busy, man. So Ben, thank you for your time and your
Cheers, Ben.
efforts. Thank
Cool,
you, honestly,
pleasure.
Ben. Nice one. Thank you very much. Big
See
up
you
to
later,
you, Ben.
guys. All the best.
No worries. Oh, take care, mate. Take care. I mean, Adam, man, how do we digest that, man? Obviously, Ben's there. It's obviously worrying times, but how do you digest that, mate?
You just you have to just keep reading, keep listening, and try and, well, there's nothing we can do in terms of trying. Nothing we can do. We have to wait now for the next stage, which is the frustration part as a fan. We just have to wait for that statement. The Ineos statement will come through. Obviously, we're hearing rumours now already that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is lining up his first signing and things like that. It's all sort of like hearsay, and we just need to know now. But like Ben said there, I think that was one thing we take from what Ben has just said there, which is something we can concrete and put in the diary. We are going to hear how structured that deal is between Sir Jim and the Glazers. We're going to know exactly what role that entails and how much power he has got. So I think that's what we take from this. I think that's the only thing we can take from this until we know, until they come out and say. We could be looking at it as Paul Mitchell coming in as a director of football. That's good news. The structure, the way it's run, obviously, Sir Jim now doing the football side of things could be a positive. I mean, the Glazers have spent United's money. I'll say that. I'll make that clear. Very much so in the wrong way. If we'd have spent 1.3, 1.4 billion, what it is we've spent since Sir Alex Ferguson, better, with a better structure, would we be sat here now complaining about what's going on? May not. So that's what we got to take from it. That exactly what Ben said there, that statement and what comes next and how this deal is structured and what power Sir Jim has got is the next step for us right now as a fan base. That's all we can take from it.
A couple of super chats here. Joel says, path to control, football and control, all buzzwords and spin. United don't have another 5 to 10 years of rotting. The club is literally falling apart. Joel says here, I'm sorry, but you can't spin this one. Radcliffe is a Chelsea stakeholder who can't afford to buy the club now or later. And Ben, because his day one club is finished. Listen, Ben's trying to give his own opinion, and Ben is trying to give us as much facts as we can possible. I hear the frustrations. I do hear it. But you know what it is? Just as kind as we wrap this up, man, Adam, Sheikh Jassim has played almost double what the club is worth. Yeah, that's the thing that kills me the most. He's paid double, guys, what the club is worth. Like, as much as you can say, pay whatever it takes, you also got to have a principle. You also got to have a sense of pride. This is business owners. You know, this is what, you know how much he's got to do to kind of get rid of the mess as well. You're almost taking on the role of paying the money. Then you've got to wipe out the debt. Then you've got to build the infrastructure. That's amounting to 8 billion. Well,
that's it.
Like people just think throw the money out. Like, what are you talking about, guys? Pay whatever. No, it's about these lot are greedy. Get that into your heads.
Beyond greedy, mate. They know what they're doing. They can see a chance for making more money in the future. They've got enough money now to live. A big deal from Sheikh Jassim now and laying in their pockets with billions between them. Doesn't really interest them. You can't spend that money. Where else are they going to go? They've got the creme de la creme in terms of football franchise, sport franchise. They know because they've just had a record bid and they've turned it down. So for them, they'll look at that and go, there's our gauge. There's our level right now. We know we're the best. And we are in charge of the best and the biggest. So let's milk this cow even more. And let's just take this roller coaster on a little bit longer, mate. That's what it is. And like you said, the greed aspect, all you want is more. They want more, more, more. And that's a lot in business. It's like the people that have the power, the people that have the millions and the billions, they don't stand still on one. They make as much as they possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, man. I mean, Steve's trying to come in here saying, I'll fund the roof and whatnot." Listen, man, it's you know when you get fans, City fans coming in and start giving you banter, it's low in it. You just I kind of almost said to myself, like, don't worry, like as much as we're shit right now, you've got something to look forward to, and that's been the kind of biggest kind of for me disappointment. Like last night, I was just like, I didn't go bed till like 3 a.m. I was just so dejected, man. I think it's gone more than anger. It's more dejection now. I feel dejected. I feel empty. I feel like there's this, like part of you's gone, man. And that's what it is, people, man. That's what it is. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. There's 2.3K in the building. Guys, we haven't even reached 1,000 likes, guys. Come on. We've given you elite content. We need them likes up. We're currently on 660 likes. By the time Adam shouts his new United vibe and the way he's going on forward, Adam, big up to you for coming on. And where can they find you, mate?
Yeah, hit me out on all socials. Hit me up on YouTube now. The channel is taking on a new face over. More will come on that. I'll explain that tonight, 7 o'clock live on my channel, United Vibe.
There you go.
There's more to come. Big things are coming, basically. A lot of change. So, yeah, check me out later. I'll explain a little bit more on that. And obviously, we'll get into detail of more from what's happened today as well. I like to just take on the information, let it breathe, let it simmer, and then try not to go full on rant mode when things and go all reactional. But yeah, that's what it is. We'll be back tonight at 7. But yeah, check me out there and I will reveal more on that show.
Yeah, make sure you do that, people. Link is in the description. And don't worry, man. Me and Adam, we've always been around, man. You know what I'm saying? We've always seen it sort of Old Trafford. Don't worry, we will do more shows together. I'll be on
Yeah,
his
we
channel,
will.
he'll be on my channel. And we'll just try and, you know what I mean, stick together, man. That's all I can say, guys. This isn't a time to divide. I tell you that right now. It's a time to stick together more than ever. But ultimately, everyone will have their own agendas, and it is what it is, people. But guys, I'll be back later tonight, 9 p.m. with the United Unfiltered podcast, me, Flawless, Double A, a couple of others as well. Maybe Andy Tate, he might have calmed down a little bit, but you never know. He might be on the same rampage. But guys, make sure you tune in 9 p.m. Check over Adam, 7 p.m. I will see you next time. Peace.